go on another episode of our little podcast show, and that show is with me, Dave Warnocky. I'm here with Matt Stewart.
Hi Dave, how do you do?
I do well. That's quite formal of you. Thank you, Matthew. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Hey, Dave, I'd love to introduce you to my co-host.
Oh, is it not me?
Look, I'm confused by this. It's Jess Perkins. I almost put a soft J there.
Hess Perkins.
Jess Perkins.
Hess Perkins. Hello, Hess. How are you?
Hello, lads. How are we?
We are bloody well. Great to see you here. Hess Perkins.
I don't think I'm Matt's co-host. I think we're all each other's co-hosts.
We're equal
Well, then
hosts.
you are my co-host then, aren't you?
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
All right.
Well played.
Many
Thank
good
you.
points shall be made on this show where we pick a topic, one of the three of us. We write a report about it, then report back to the other two, try and teach them some interesting things. This week it is my turn to talk the talk.
And Dave,
Ooh.
you are a little bit anxious, would you say?
Well,
about
there's
this one?
a few reasons for that. Firstly, I gotta mention the elephant in the room.
Uh-huh.
Is it Hess Perkins?
Yeah, Hess Perkins.
Hess. Oh, you calling Hess an elephant? That's weird. I was actually
Sorry,
talking
Hess.
about we've got, in this space. It's a rehearsal space as well. And Auntie Donna, a sketch comedy troupe,
Troop, yeah.
are
Troop.
rehearsing out the back, and they have a pretty loud brand of comedy. Dave put his foot down. He went out there and he said,
Rolled up
"Oi."
the sleeves, pulled out the shotgun, said, "Look here, Zach. I blame you for the noise," which is one of the three guys there. And they were bloody lovely about it, so hopefully they're not going to be too loud in the background.
But at the same time, we're fans and supporters of their art.
Big fans.
So, we want to support them in any way we can.
and if one of those ways is asking them to be quiet for a bit,
That's fair.
then we're willing to do that.
But if
Yeah,
our
well-
listeners can hear them a little bit in the background, well, you're welcome, because you're getting
That's
an
right.
insight into genius.
Yeah.
That's right. And if you are thinking them in the background is funnier than what you're hearing on the show, which it undoubtedly is, head over to YouTube and look
Yeah.
up Auntie Donna for some real comedy style.
They're amazing. But,
They-
it's our time to shine.
It is our time to shine.
The other thing I think Dave is anxious about is that he's written a super long report,
Oh.
and he's confident that there is no humour in it at all.
And Matt has somewhere to be, so we we
The
need to
clock
power
is
through
ticking.
as well.
I've written too long. I've watched two documentaries. I've spent about 10 hours online looking at this thing. It better be good, is what I'm saying.
And you know what? I'm sure it will be. I have a lot of faith in you, and if you put in that much effort, then it's going to really show in your report.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thanks, guys.
And Matt and I are here for you, and you say you want us to be the comedic relief. Well, sure, just you wait and see.
Just you wait and see. And if not, there's always Auntie Donna in the background.
Exactly. Hopefully somebody
There
pops in.
is. So hopefully I'll get an A+ on the factual part of the research, and you guys can get an A for some comedy style.
All right.
Now, Dave, we normally kick off the show with a question to link us into the topic. What's the question this week?
That's right, because we're all big trivia lovers. We start with a question. My question is, what do you guys think was the first television broadcast to be viewed by more than 500 million people? 500 million.
Okay. Was it the Beatles when they're on that Around the World thing? They played.
No, I like
They
that.
debuted their song about love.
Which one?
All
There's
you need
many.
is love.
All you need is love.
Okay.
That's the one.
No, a great guess and a good tie-in to an earlier episode of the show about the Beatles.
Yeah, I was going to say like the Olympics.
The Olympics.
What
Since
about? Is
since
it the
then-
Olympics?
No, it is not the Olympics. Since then, it has been beaten by a few things. But
Oh,
this
okay.
is
The first one that was viewed by a lot of people.
How many again? It was
500.
over
What
500.
are
So
things that
half
have been
a
televised? Was it a
Which is
live
like
telecast?
everyone.
live telecast.
So what's
Was
something
it
that?
sport?
No.
So what's
It
something
is.
that everybody's interested in?
It's probably
Coronation.
the most.
You're doing another episode about Academy Awards.
It is probably arguably the most famous. Actually,
Oh, wedding? Is it a
Event.
wedding?
well, it has since been beaten by Princess Charles and Diana's wedding, which
Okay.
is 750 million views. One of the most significant and hyped up events of the 20th century.
Moon landing.
It's the moon landing! Yes, it
Oh my god.
is!
Oh, this is so good. I love this.
Do you love the moon? Because
I lo-
we are talking for the next 45, 50 minutes
And one
about
of
the
the
moon.
documentaries that you watched, was it The Dish?
No, it
Because
was
I
not
went through a
the
big phase of that movie. We studied space in grade 4, and it was when that movie had come out, and we had to make diagrams, and I just made the satellite dish in Parks. I made a model of that, and I
made
put sheep in it, because there's like a joke that it's in the middle of a sheep paddock, and I put sheep in my diagram.
Very good. And what mark did you get for this?
Like A+, easily,
A.
which is what's coming for you, buddy. We're talking the moon!
We are talking the moon landing,
I
Matthew.
was at the dish a couple of months ago.
You were?
Yeah.
Any sheep inside the dish?
No sheep inside the dish.
Disappointing.
And you made a diagram?
Not a diagram. Like, what's the word? Like, I made a model of it.
Oh, a diorama.
Diorama, thank you.
I'm like, yeah, okay,
Diagram.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I made a diorama. It was huge. It was like a big satellite dish, and I think
Have
my mum
fun
really
at
enjoyed helping
dioramas.
make that.
All we did when I was in grade 4, our big project, because you would have been the same year, Jess, that was the year of the Sydney 2000 Olympics.
Yes.
And we all got to make a project on one sport, and you got no mark, but you got a gold, silver, or bronze medal.
Oh, I like
I did
that.
mine on weightlifting, which is quite original. No one else did that. My dad did all of the project,
Uh-huh.
and we still only got a silver medal.
Aw.
Oh.
Oh well,
Thanks,
yeah, I like when your
Dad.
parents. Like my mum made the model of the dish, and I was like, "Can I help?" No. She's having a great time.
Back off. You'll ruin it.
Yeah. We'll put sheep in it. That'll be funny.
Comedy.
Great stuff.
Anne Perkins.
She's a great lady.
Okay, so, and this is my final in a trilogy of very famous things that you think you know a lot about, but when you actually think about it, you don't actually know anything about it
Cool.
at all. So we started with the
Well,
Mona Lisa, we had the Academy Awards, and now we with the moon landing, a triptych,
Triptych.
if you will.
Just like my man,
Frederick McCubbin.
Frederick McCubbin
As
and his
discussed in the
pioneer triptych.
as discussed in the
Oh
first
yes, of course.
episode. So, because when I thought about it, I was like, the moon landing, like I say, one of the most famous events of the last century. Then I thought about it. I don't know how long it took them to get there. I don't know how long they were there
3
for.
weeks.
What they
They
were
were
doing
there
up
for
there.
a day and a half.
I've got no idea. That is incorrect, and we're going to get them.
But you tried.
But do you guys feel? I don't know, Jess. Maybe you said you're obsessed with it, but I had no real because you know when something becomes so famous, you just accept it. There's no point in researching it.
You don't know the
because
details.
I already know the moon landing happened.
Yeah.
But then, because I wasn't alive in 1969 when it was on television, I have no idea about it.
Yeah, cool. I don't think I'll know like little facts, but I'm sure you're gonna surprise me.
Matt, how you feeling?
Yeah, look, I don't know much,
Cool.
but
Well-
I know I love you.
But I
I don't know.
I
I'm
saw.
gonna say, I
I
don't know much, but I know what I like.
I've seen
I like
Apollo
the moon landing.
13, and that's the failed one. I think what was the successful one? Apollo 11.
Oh,
I know
yes.
that. I know Neil Armstrong was involved.
Yeah, who
Buzz
else?
Aldrin.
Buzz Aldrin.
I don't know the third guy's name.
Oh, I do.
We'll get there. Don't you
We'll
worry.
get there. Oh god,
We will
there's
get
so
there.
much to learn.
And I think that's about all I know.
So little
Oh,
time.
and also that it's a hoax. Oh, they're
Oh,
the
yeah,
only
yeah,
things
yeah.
I know.
Also, I'm going to preface this by saying I wanted to do a bit about it being a hoax, but the actual report went so long that if you are interested in hoax, and I looked it up, there's heaps of conspiracy theory podcasts. So if you're into that, but
Okay.
we're just going to take it on face value
Yeah.
that it actually happened because it was just too much. It was like another separate report.
It was not in a recording studio somewhere.
No, it was on the moon. If you've ever heard of that,
The moon.
the moon. Okay, so
Which moon? The moon.
the moon.
Yeah,
Background.
it's weird. There's a lot of moons.
Yeah, but ours is just moon.
It's the moon.
It's weird.
I think it's Neptune. All the moons of Neptune are named after Shakespeare characters.
Huh.
There's like 30 or
Ah,
40 of them.
That's kind of nice.
There you go. Okay, background. Here we go.
Background.
Moon time. In November 1960, John F. Kennedy was elected as the 35th President of the United States.
Rings a bell.
Of course, you may have heard of this man. It was an uncertain time, the 60s, in American history, with being the height of the Cold War. People were pretty unsure as to what was going to happen with tension growing between the United States and the USSR, those Soviet guys.
Back in the USSR. Another callback to the
Another
Beatles.
callback. Beatles loved it. So Kennedy had been elected on a campaign that promised American superiority. He practiced his speech. Superiority over the Soviet Union, particularly in fields of space exploration and missile defense. So that was his big selling point. Now, the Apollo program that we've already talked slightly about had been initially conceived during the previous president, Dwight D. Eisenhower's time at the top. You know that guy, Dwight Eisenhower? The program was named Apollo after the Greek god of light, music, and the sun, and it was named by NASA manager Abe Silverstein, who later said, I was naming the spacecraft like I'd name my baby. And Apollo is a terrible name for a child. I looked up Abe in real life, and his children are actually called Joe and David, which are much more boring.
Maybe what
David is a shit name.
David's a terrible
I think
name.
Apollo's alright.
Apollo
Apollo Creed. Remember him?
Is that from...
How would
Rocky-
you shorten
That's
that
from
name?
Rocky, yeah.
How would you shorten Apollo?
Pole.
Polsky.
Pole Pot. Was he an Apollo?
Yo, Pole.
Oh, my goodness.
No.
No, probably not.
You said to bring the
don't-
humour.
Yeah, thank you. Let's liken it to a Cambodian leader. Despite being elected on the promise of space exploration over the Soviets, JFK, I'm on first name terms with him, or I am on initialism terms.
Thank you. I
Okay,
can't remember
good.
the word.
Yeah.
Initially.
JFK did not come to an immediate decision on the Apollo missions and whether they should go ahead. So he was umming and ahhing because it was going to cost a lot of money, and he knew that.
Huh, I wonder why.
But a bit of background here. The Americans were claiming that they were going to be superior in space exploration. But at this time, the US were definitely running second to the Soviets.
Wow.
So the space race began in 1957 when the Soviets launched the first satellite into space. Any ideas what that's called? Probably heard of it. Sputnik.
Sputnik. I have
Sputnik
heard
1.
of that. Yeah.
I did know it. It was there. It was
And
on
the
tip of
the
my
American
tongue.
public was super shocked that the Soviets had beaten them. Then the US launched their own satellite the next year, so they're a bit behind.
Someone was called Patriotic Love Missile.
Oh my goodness, so many of the things are actually called stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
great. So they put their thing out the next year, and then they decided they were going to one-up them, and they were like, getting a person into space is our next goal. But the Soviets beat them yet again when cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the
Yuri?
first... Pardon?
I just said his name.
Yuri, that's right.
Yuri.
He
What
became-
are you on first name basis?
Yeah.
I'm on initialism basis with
Yeah,
YG.
that's-
YG. He became the first person into outer space, and he went into orbit of the Earth in 1961. So that was April. The next month, the US launched its first astronaut, Alan Shepard, into suborbital space as part of Project Mercury. He was aboard the craft, the Freedom 7,
Yeah,
which is
I
a
love that
very
stuff.
American name. But he only went suborbital, which means he got into space but didn't complete like a full orbit, like YG from
Yuri.
Russia. So it's kind of like having a number 2 hit. It's
Yeah.
pretty impressive. But number 1 is so much better.
Yeah.
So number 1. And then, I love, America is such a great country. 20 days after Alan Shepard became the first US person into space, but still didn't do proper orbital, JFK gets up there and says to Congress, "Hey guys, I believe that this nation should commit ourselves to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth." So they have
Famous speech.
it is a famous speech.
I think it was more compelling when he said it, but you did a good job.
And I believe that our nation,
Before this decade is out.
that's a pretty good impression of JFK.
It's not bad.
Yours, I can't quite put my finger on the accent that was sneaking into
It
it.
was a little bit Irish, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was like a leprechaun.
Leprechaun
JFK.
JFK.
Before the decade is out, we've got to put a man on the moon.
Fuck, now I'm thinking about Irish. Anyway, so he's gone, "Hey guys, we can't do the satellite. Hey guys, we can't get an astronaut into space first. Hey guys, we're going to put a man on the moon."
But don't you think, like, because the Soviets keep beating them, so don't tell them what you're going to do.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Like-
They've got better technology, clearly, at this
Yeah,
stage.
and you're sort of saying, oh, before the decade's out. This is the early 60s. So you're like, well, I'm giving us plenty of time to
Yeah,
do this.
exactly. He thinks he's got a long time.
They're just going to beat you. Work quick, dudes.
So the cards are on the table. Americans, they've gone all in, despite the fact they are behind. And this is, 1962 this is. And then John F. Kennedy was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. So he never saw people get to the moon.
Sad.
So just
Sort of
keep
like-
that in the back of your mind. So, landing the men on the moon, it's pretty ambitious and required a huge, sudden burst of technological creativity. And it was the largest commitment of resources ever made by any nation during peacetime. So the US invested a whopping $24 billion, that's with a B,
Whoa.
in the 60s, which is equal in 2014 to $356 billion.
It's a lot of cash.
That's a lot of cash.
A lot of money. At its peak, the Apollo program employed 400,000 people,
What?
required the support of 20,000 industrial firms and universities. So it was a big spend, but it created a lot of jobs.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least it is creating a lot of jobs, but at the end of the day, and while I'm certainly not, saying it's not an impressive feat, but at the end of the day, all you're doing is like, can we do this? Oh yeah, there we go, we did it. No, I'm guessing they, anyway, keep going. I'm just shitting all over the moon landing. Like, what did you do? All you did is went to the moon, but
It's
a
not
lot
that
happened
impressive.
from that.
It's not that... I'm impressed, but mainly because I watched these 2 documentaries and I'm kind of obsessed with it at the moment.
Sure.
Like, it is a kind of cool thing, but yeah, what has it really done?
Yeah, but then I'm thinking...
Hey,
Well,
it's all about beating the
They would've
Russians.
learned
They
a
can
lot.
run upside down and stuff, right upside
Right,
down. Good on you.
yeah, and then the Soviets will just use a pencil.
Yeah, so good.
Hey, we beat those Soviets.
Yeah,
I say we. I
What
mean
do you
they.
mean, we?
Hey,
You watched 2 documentaries and now you're an American.
I am an American. Oh my goodness. See, I also am happy that I'm doing this project because last night at my trivia night that I host, I heard a woman say, Neil Armstrong, he was British, right?
Oh,
No, probably the most American guy of all time. And then she goes, oh no, sorry, I'm thinking of Lance Armstrong.
also American.
Also American,
Okay.
so did not excuse the mistake.
Please do not go to trivia nights.
Wait,
madam.
no, I was thinking of Stretch Armstrong.
Also
Oh
an
no,
American
he's
thing.
a toy. Ah,
An American toy.
He's a toy. Oh, I can never get that right.
Fuck,
British, a toy.
I'm thinking of my husband. No, Australian. He's Australian. So the US completed a number of unmanned missions over the next 6 years, 5 or 6 years. It wasn't until 1967 that they had their first manned mission. This has since been known to history as Apollo 1. And it can't be described as anything other than horrific disaster.
Oh boy.
Oh, man.
That's death.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. So it was supposed to be the first manned test flight of the Apollo Command Service Module, which they call the CSM. That's the bit right at the front of the rocket where they sit.
Oh, yep.
So right at the top. So they didn't have fuel in the rocket. There was just a test. They were just going to sit there and do a countdown. That's what they were going to do. So the plan was for them, Apollo 1, eventually, after this test, to be the first people to orbit Earth in the thing and then come back. Launched on a big rocket called the Saturn 1B. It's a massive rocket. So on January 27th, 1967, whilst undergoing a procedural launch simulation after 5.5 hours of delays, an electrical fire began in the cabin,
Oh.
spread ridiculously quickly in the high-pressure 100% oxygen atmosphere that was around them. The 3 men in control lost radio contact with the NASA tower after just 17 seconds. So, went up in flames really quick. Pressure rose high enough from the fire that the cabin burst. And the fire erupted onto the pad area, which frustrated attempts to rescue them. The astronauts were asphyxiated and then burnt before the hatch could be opened. So really, the hatch actually opened
Ew.
inward and was very complicated to get open in a disaster. So the 3 astronauts, Gus Grissom, Edward White, Roger Chaffee, had no hope of survival. So it's
Oh.
massive tragedy, big disaster. It rocked the NASA mission, the Apollo mission.
But it was like a dress rehearsal, wasn't it? Like
So
they weren't even really taking off. They were
No,
just
no.
counting down.
So they're just counting
Oh
down.
my God.
and
How
something
was
went
that?
wrong.
It's super bad. And so and luckily it
Oh.
was a dress rehearsal because there's no fuel. Otherwise it could have exploded,
It would have been much
which would
worse.
have been terrifying.
Still not great.
Oh, terrible.
Awful.
So the United States Congress were like, whoa, this is not good. They launched a committee inquiry into NASA, who did their own investigation into the
Man, that would
incident.
have been so embarrassing.
Yeah,
Oh,
right?
People were really...
Check this out, USSR.
And then, like,
We can do it too.
and
can do-
somebody
Oh,
just
boy.
didn't plug something in properly and it just sparked and off we
And
go.
they had a big investigation. They could not find the cause of the fire. So this day they're
Oh.
not that
Cigarette.
sure.
Oh, yeah, it's always a
It's
cigarette.
always-
And the US public were like, hey, we don't know if we want to do this. This is not a cool thing because 3 American heroes, as they say, have just died for nothing.
Yeah, literally
How
nothing.
the hell are you going to get to the moon if you can't have them sit on the pad and count from 10 to 0?
Ooh.
But eventually, after a big investigation and halting the mission, they decided to go ahead with the moon mission, but they had a number of safety procedures that were amended. So they had new fireproof suits.
Ah,
It's a good invention.
good start.
The removal of flammable material in the cabin.
Excellent.
Also clever. A hatch that could be quickly opened in an emergency.
There we go.
All things that in retrospect seem pretty common sense.
You
but
would hope
they
so.
did that. So the deceased astronauts' widows asked NASA that they name Apollo 1, or their name Apollo 1 be reserved for their flight, the flight that they never made. So it was decided in retrospect that what they were originally called AS-204, that would be recorded as Apollo 1 out of respect for those guys. So at the time they went, hey, we're Apollo 1. They thought there was something else.
Yeah.
And since 3 unmanned Apollo missions before them had already taken place, which is AS 201, 202, 203, it was decided that the next mission, the first unmanned test of Saturn V, the big rocket, that would be called Apollo 4.
Okay.
So, and everything else from then on is 5, 6, 7.
So,
So there's no
there were
such
3
thing.
prequels.
Yes, there's no such
Yeah.
thing as Apollo 2 or Apollo 3.
Yeah, cool.
So there you go.
They
It's
just skip straight to 4.
out of respect for those guys. So
That's
the
nice.
missions continued on. Apollo 7 was the next manned flight. So they did 4, 5, and 6. And Apollo 8 was the first manned flight to leave Earth's orbit. It reached the moon. And it made the crew the first humans to ever see the far side of the moon and the Earth rise over the lunar horizon.
Oh, that would have been so
Wow.
sick.
That would have been top notch.
Having no idea what it would have really looked like, I guess.
Yeah, so
Or
they've-
did they have satellite footage of that sort of stuff?
Oh, probably there had been satellites that went to the moon, but yeah.
So they just kind of... So that was a manned flight that went to the moon.
Went to the moon, went around and then came back.
but didn't land on it.
So there was already satellite, so maybe it wouldn't have been that cool to see.
Oh,
But
with your own eyes, I reckon it would be pretty cool.
So
man.
Neil Armstrong wasn't even the first person to go to the moon.
No, well, because the next one was Apollo 10 in May 1969. That was a dress rehearsal for the moon landing. The crew did everything the Apollo 11 mission would do, except they stopped just short of landing on the moon. So they got there, did a lap, got the lunar module, lowered it down to within 15 kilometers of the moon, and then they just went straight back up and then went home. So a really cool thing to do, but they are like 15k away from being the people we all know.
That's so strange. It reminds me of Burke and Will's,
Yeah.
like, almost... How far away were they?
It
Like,
was about 15Ks, I think.
no, I think it was even less. I thought they were like 5Ks or something.
Maybe it was, yeah, because they could taste the salt water.
Yeah. That was such a short... And they're like,
So these
you know what?
guys-
Close enough. And back they go.
They're the Burke and Wills of the 20th century. And I think that this podcast could be the Burke and Wills of the 21st century.
We'll almost do well.
We'll almost be someone.
And we'll die of starvation before reaching the ultimate success.
Yeah. Fabulous.
What's
Live
the
the dream.
ultimate success to you?
Podcast glory.
Podcast glory, yeah.
Top of the charts.
If I could have one thing, it'd be podcast glory, please.
One thing and one thing only.
Yeah.
Okay, so Apollo 10's made it to the moon. They've gotten real close, but they've come home. Then we finally get to the Apollo 11, the famous moon mission. So the 3 men chosen for the July 1969 moon landing were Commander Neil Armstrong, the one we all know. He was 1 month away from turning 40, so he's 39 at this time.
It's old.
He's a former... Hey, he's decorated.
No, but like, you know what I mean. Like you'd
It's
think.
fine.
I guess you've also got to be, like, they're all super smart guys, right? What do they need to know? There's some sort of science guys,
They're pretty sciencey.
robot-y guys,
Well, he is...
engineer type people.
No, he's just he's just a crazy good pilot. So
Oh.
he's a former officer in the U.S. Navy.
He was just a
Ah.
pilot.
He had served in the Korean War.
No.
After the war, he served as a test pilot at the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics.
I didn't know that.
There you go. In a high-speed flight station where he logged 900 flights as like super quick pilot dude.
Right.
Super quick pilot dude's the technical term, obviously.
Yes, thank you, Matthew. Looking at you.
I don't know why we both just turned on you then.
No,
like,
sorry, Matt.
oh,
Because
duh.
you said the word engineer, and we're like, no, actually, he's a super high-tech pilot dude.
He's done like heaps of flying.
Then he joined NASA Astronaut Corps in 1962, and before Apollo 11, he'd flown into space once in 1966, and he was technically the first American civilian to go into space because he retired from the Navy. He was technically a civilian.
Ah,
So there you go.
that's pretty cool. I didn't know he was a pilot, so that's cool. There you go.
Yeah,
We're
so-
learning.
Decorated pilot, 900 flights. Then we have lunar module pilot, Edwin Buzz Aldrin Jr. He was also 39 years old. He's a former US Air Force officer and command pilot. And in 1966, he had been one of the first people to complete a space walk. So he's actually walked outside space before. Neil has not. And sadly, the man that not many people remember is command module
Wait,
pilot.
give me a clue. I reckon I'll know his name. Give me the first letter of his name.
Is this guy an engineer?
M.
Michael
Michael. Surname
starts with
C.
Michael, no. No, come on, Jess, you can do this. Michael.
Matt, do you want to have a guess? C. Starts with C.
Cranberry.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I reckon we'd all remember it. It's a really common name. That's the other thing that's against.
Is it like
Because you remember
Chapman? No, it's not
Armstrong is awesome.
Yeah.
Buzz, cool name. This guy is Michael Collins.
Collins!
Ah. He's
Yeah.
also like an Irish. Was he Irish? He had a movie made out about him, I think.
Just for doing nothing.
Or
Good on
maybe
him.
that's just a different Michael. Probably a different Michael Collins.
For doing nothing. Well, he at 38 was the youngest of the crew.
Oh, the baby.
He'd been the 4th ever person to complete a spacewalk, even before Buzz.
Oh,
Sir
wow.
Michael Collins. He had also been in the US Air Force and later went on to be director of the National Air and Space Museum.
Okay.
So multifaceted, Michael Collins.
He's a pretty cool guy.
They're all pretty qualified guys.
But he was the one who stayed in the ship.
That's
For want
right.
of a better word.
So he stayed in the module while
thank
they
you.
went down.
I don't know if it's
Somebody
such a
had
bad
to.
result
Somebody
for him.
had to.
You know, he's still got to be there. He just wouldn't have had all the bullshit afterwards.
Yeah, true.
I reckon
What
that's
kind
fine.
of bullshit do you foresee them?
Oh,
going
like
through?
Buzz Aldrin, he can't go down the shops without
Yeah.
the kids wanting to.
The kids, because he is like the number one most followed person on Twitter,
Yeah.
Instagram. People are going crazy.
I wanna
At
know
the
if he
time,
has
he would have
Twitter.
been equivalent of Twitter in 1969, which was magazines.
I'm gonna
Playboy.
look up if Buzz Aldrin has Twitter.
He does.
I'm following him.
They would have been all over him. He would have been so famous. Neil Armstrong even worse.
Oh, he would have been the most famous person alive.
He has
Yeah.
900,000 followers. That doesn't feel like enough.
Well,
Well,
there's one
900,001
more.
now.
He's got
one
one
more.
now.
after the show, I pledge allegiance
To
that
Buzz
I
Aldrin.
will follow Buzz
Do you
Aldrin.
reckon I'll get a follow back? Probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
Let's
probably.
tweet him when the show goes out.
Probably,
Yes.
It's probably nice for Buzz to be followed now after following Neil that day. Like
Oh.
he's a famous follower.
He's a sheep.
And now, yeah, really, that's
Space
all he was.
sheep.
Come on, mate, let's tread our own path.
You know, we know what the saddest part here is that if you look up Michael Collins on Twitter, there's probably like 8,000
I'm
people with
looking
that
it up.
name.
Oh, yeah, no, good call. I'll never find him.
Never. It's sad. It
It
is
is
sad.
sad.
Okay, so we got the actual mission. The 3 dudes, they're ready to rock. They're really qualified. They've all been into space. Now, before this mission, the crew of Apollo 10 had named their spacecraft Charlie Brown and Snoopy.
Adorable.
So NASA was like, hey, this is actually going to the moon. We want you to name the craft after something a bit more mature this time. So the command module, the bit that Michael Collins gets to hang out in, they called that Columbia, after the Columbiad, which is the giant cannon shell spacecraft fired by a giant cannon in a Jules Verne novel, From the Earth to the Moon.
Okay, too complicated.
So a bit of a reference there that no one was getting.
I think a Peanuts reference, everybody got it
Yeah.
at
Everyone
least.
got, yeah.
I thought it was just Christopher Columbus, like an
Yeah.
explorer.
Good grief is all I can say to that. Good grief. The lunar module, the bit that actually goes down in the moon, you've probably seen it's a weird looking sort of goldy, it looks like it's covered in tin foil. That was called Eagle. You've probably heard the
The
phrase.
eagle has
The eagle has
Eagle has
landed.
landed. That's what they meant. That's right. Also, eagles, very American.
Sure.
There we go. So the rocket that was to get them off the ground was called the Saturn V. The Saturn V. It's the tallest, the heaviest, and most powerful rocket ever brought to operational status.
Wow.
It was 111 meters tall, and the 3 men sat at the top of
111
it.
meters, that's tall.
That's quite tall.
And they're at the top, 3 of them sitting, facing, strapped upwards, so they're looking towards the sky.
That'd be quite a sweet feeling. Right?
If you like,
Being launched into space, that'd be pretty cool, right?
probably.
Yeah, probably
Guys,
top
you ever
5
thought about that?
top
How
5
cool
feel-
it would feel?
Do you reckon top 5
That's what I
feels?
think it would feel like. Just being shaken.
It sounded like you were gargling.
Oh, yeah.
And just to prove that that every episode references Nazis in some ways, the Saturn V was designed by Werner von Braun, who was a Nazi poached by the USA after World War II during Operation Paperclip.
It sounds like something out of the Avengers.
What?
Like,
Operation Paperclip.
or just that and that they like snatched a Nazi.
Yeah, they snatched thousands of them after. Maybe we could do an episode about this. They gave like diplomatic immunity to really clever people
Diplomatic immunity.
that were working on German rockets. Hey, these are Nazis.
I know, I was just quoting
No,
Lethal
it's fine.
Weapon.
It's fine.
It's the only way I can ever hear the words diplomatic
Yeah?
immunity
Is that
said.
what-
Diplomatic
Were you thinking the same
immunity.
thing? Yeah.
So anyway, so they Operation Paperclip. They got heaps of Nazi people that were really clever guys to come over and work for the United States. And this guy, Werner von Braun, he is often described as the godfather of rocket science. So
The
there you go.
godfather of rocket science.
Correct.
Mark found it funny.
Correct. So they're at the top of the astronaut. Before the launch, the 3 astronauts went into quarantine. And whilst there, they filled some of their time by taking out a sort of life insurance policy on their life. So they looked into life insurance. Really dangerous job being an astronaut. It's going to cost them $50,000 a year in 1969 money. So not really worth insuring your life for that. So they knew what they were doing was very dangerous. They could possibly die. Actually, pretty likely they're going to die. So what they did was they signed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of autographs on these little envelopes.
That's amazing.
All 3 of them on the same one. And then what they did was they gave it to their friend who was an astronaut. And on the day that they were going to launch in 1969, he took them to the post office. And they all got stamps with the date. And then he distributed their friend, to their 3 families.
Oh.
So if they died, that their families could sell something because they'd be worth heaps
Amazing.
more because they were the 3 astronauts that died, right?
Oh my goodness.
Spoiler alert, they did not die.
Oh.
So
I've
Well,
never been
that-
disappointed that somebody lived.
Let's wrap it up there.
Still, these envelopes these days can fetch up to $30,000 each.
Wow.
There you go. So it was a collector's item after all.
It probably is a better collector's item because they didn't die, right?
Yeah,
Because
but-
they were the
But
ones who
afterwards,
made
they
it.
signed thousands of autographs because they were heroes.
Totally.
For free. So there you go.
Wow, that's genius, though. That's
So-
that's so clever.
So they're sitting at the top of the rocket. They're pretty happy. They're probably going to die, but their family's going to make a lot of money. They're okay.
Everyone's gonna be
Amazing.
okay.
Surely that wasn't in their minds. We're probably going to die, was it?
I think they must have thought about it. I mean,
No.
they're
They
going,
must have been
they're
like,
trying to go to the
we-
moon. It's really, I can't say this enough. It's really dangerous.
Yeah, is it though? I mean, they did it.
It's not just like flying to Sydney. Like,
Oh, sorry. I keep thinking. Well, I mean, it's just like flying to Sydney,
yeah.
but it's not like that.
There's
They're
an air
sitting-
hostess and she gives you a meal, and it's not the best meal, but it's
Well,
fine.
Just to put into context where you're at, they are sitting on top of hundreds of millions of litres of fuel.
Yeah,
And 3
you'll
years
need
earlier,
that
and
to get
less,
there.
Yeah, you
and
will.
less than 3 years earlier, their mates had died in a fire at the top of that thing,
Yeah.
and there was no fuel on board. So,
So they
imagine,
needed the fuel.
Yeah,
That's lesson 1 that I've got out of this so far.
fuel is good.
Always have fuel.
always have, no, if they had fuel, they would have blown up the half of Florida.
Well, look, this on the information you've given me, no fuel, big fire. Fuel, no fire. I think.
Well,
No fire and glory.
statistically, when they had no fuel, 100% of the time they caught fire. My God. Never thought about that.
Yeah.
Too soon, Dave. Too soon.
Sorry, guys. All right, so Apollo 11 launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida on July 16th, 1969 at 9:32 a.m. local time. It entered
It's very
Earth.
specific.
It entered Earth orbit. Well, they're super specific about everything.
Well, they were 2 minutes late because it was supposed to be 9:30. Get that on Jetstar, people will bloody
Oh, they're going to
complain.
crack the shits.
Yeah.
It's because people have brought in too much hand luggage.
Yeah.
11 kilos. You really think you're going to get that on board? Stow that shit, Neil. So it took off 9:32 a.m. and this is how quick it is. It entered Earth orbit just 12 minutes later. So it's so quick. The Saturn V, the big
Faster
rocket.
than getting to bloody Sydney. Takes
Yeah.
an hour.
Cop that, Jetstar. The Saturn V had 3 stages. This is the big rocket that the Nazi designed. That fell away from the rocket, so eventually each stage gets a little bit smaller, and it's got these little the rocket engines at the bottom keep getting smaller and smaller until eventually it's just the front of the rocket. How long do you reckon they travelled in space before they hit the moon?
I was thinking. Well, I said 3 weeks. I know it's wrong.
No, it was
2 weeks.
shorter. Isn't it shorter, Dave?
It's shorter than 2 weeks, that's correct.
It's less than a week.
It's 3 days.
Oh, shit.
I'm again remembering it from the dish.
Well, it just it's 3
Like, are you
days.
claiming less than a week is the right answer?
Well, you said 3 weeks, and I said less than a week, and the answer was 3 days. So, yeah, I win.
Yeah. right.
Dave, do go on.
Thank you so much. So they got there July 19th. They passed the moon and fired a surface propulsion engine, which made them enter lunar orbit. So now they're going around and around the moon. So that's good. Then the next day, on July 20, the lunar module, known as Eagle, that we had before, separated from the command module, and Armstrong and Aldrin were in the Eagle leaving Collins alone, sort of going around and around.
Pick us up in half.
Right.
See you in a bit. He's like, I'll just
Some
look for a
laps of the
park.
cuppa.
I'll pick you up out the front.
See you guys.
Just text me when you're done.
Yeah, I'll just do laps. Unless I see a really good one. Unless I see a really good part, then I'll let you know where I am.
Yeah.
I'll send you my coordinates. GBS this shit. All right, so Collins is alone. Probably, I reckon, eating all their supplies.
Oh, totally.
I'd be hoeing down on Twix.
Mm-hmm.
Space food, Twix.
Yeah, you've just been alone. You've been in a thing with 2 other dudes for 3 days, and now you got some alone time.
You'd fart. The first thing you'd do is fart.
There'd be so many things you'd do.
I learned. I actually read this thing, and I can't tell if it was true or not, so that's why I wasn't going to put it in, but you've brought it up, that Michael Collins, when he was on the way there, took heaps and heaps of like Imodium anti-diarrhea things to sort of back himself up so he didn't have to shit in space. But it just resulted in him farting over and over and over again inside the control module.
Oh. So I was right.
You were right. Bonus point for Jess.
Thank you. We're doing points now, by the way.
It's suddenly become... Matt,
It's 1-0.
And I'm winning.
you're on 0. Still catch up. They wanted to land on a part of the moon called the Sea of Tranquility.
Ooh.
Sounds like
Sounds-
the perfect spot to
Yeah.
land.
It was that or the Desert of Death. So they
Yeah.
thought,
Oh,
nah,
which one?
let's go.
Both of them look pretty rocky. But the Sea of Tranquility, that sounds nice.
Mm.
Free spar upgrade. And as the descent towards the moon below began, Armstrong and Aldrin found they were passing landmarks on the surface 4 seconds too early. This is how specific these dudes are.
Wow.
They're like, hang on, that's 4 seconds early. And they reported that they were going to land long and that they thought they were going to land miles west of the Sea of Tranquility. Desert of Death is where they're...
Oh, no.
So 5 minutes into the descent, just 1,800 metres, which is not very far, above the surface of the moon, the Eagle's navigation and guidance computer distracted the crew with the first of several unexpected program alarms. So it's just going alarm, 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 while they're trying to concentrate on really quite a dangerous thing. Back in Houston, Texas, they had no idea what was going on. They were like, but then this 24-year-old computer program whiz kid,
Bill Gates.
well, his name's Jack Garmin. He might have, Garmin the GPS.
Oh.
Had nothing to do with it.
Oh, disappointing.
Spelled it differently. But he told the astronauts, hey guys, I've seen it before. I've written down what to do. What you do is you ignore it and keep going. That was his advice.
He's like the IT guy. Just turn it off and back on again.
That was actually what he said. If it doesn't happen again, you're going to be sweet. But then it happened again over and over and over again. So in hindsight, what they've worked out is, because this is happening in seconds, so they can't work it out because their computers are shit ass at the time. They worked out that what had happened was the computer felt it was being overworked. It couldn't complete all of its tasks, so it was just saying, I'm just going to reboot.
Give me a break.
Give me a break. So it was just crashed and reboot. It was over and over again. The alarms were going off. And just a bit of a side note here. The lunar module, whilst it was state-of-the-art 1969 computing technology, $24 billion worth, the computer on board only had 65 kilobytes of memory, which, just to put into context, the newly released iPhone 6S has 2 gigabytes of memory or RAM, which is equal to 2 million kilobytes.
Oh my goodness.
So their computer, Buzz Aldrin has described it since as having the same memory as a modern digital watch.
That's incredible.
And that is what's
Our phones are more powerful,
like
memory-wise, yeah, by a lot.
thousands of times more powerful.
But sometimes my phone just freezes for no reason and I have to turn it off and back on again. And
But
they got to the moon.
And imagine it happens in the life or death situation. This is like the time. This is the bit that they haven't done yet. Because they've gotten there. And then this is the bit, Matt. This is what they've done the dress rehearsal before. And now they're at the bit. And the alarm's going off saying, hey.
Hang on.
No. And they're on the ground. They're this close to saying abort. Because we don't want to risk these guys' life. Because the thing is, if they get there and they get stuck, no one can rescue them. It's it. That's over. They're going to just die there. So Armstrong looked outside. He saw that the computer's landing target was actually going to be in a boulder-strewn area. So there's boulders everywhere. And just east of a 300-meter diameter crater. And he was like, I don't trust this computer anymore. He realized it was low on fuel. They only had 2 minutes before that they were going to completely run out of fuel. So Armstrong, super badass, took it into semi-automatic control and with Aldrin calling out altitude and velocity data and quietly shitting his pants on his left.
He didn't have the constipation thing.
No, he really should have. Because I've actually, in a post-interview that I've read, that I saw with Aldrin, he was saying that he didn't want to take over Neil's concentration.
Sure.
He didn't want to break his... but at the same time, he was trying to use body language to imply, hey, Neil, we kind of got to get this thing on the ground. Because now the guys back in Texas, they've got a stopwatch that says 2 minutes left of fuel, and they've decided to go silent to not to disrupt Neil's memory. But all they're calling out is minute 30, minute 15 of how much fuel is left. Neil lands at 8:17 p.m. with 15 seconds of fuel left.
Oh, boy.
So it's super close.
Oh, wow.
He lands it, takes it down, and Armstrong says, Houston, Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed. And that's actually improvised, calling themselves Tranquility Base.
Oh.
Did that on the fly, bit of Neil Armstrong
Good
magic.
impro.
He's good, bit of
And
crowd work.
The very... well,
we could learn from Neil
from
Armstrong.
Neil. The very nervous ground control dude replied, Roger, twang, Tranquility. He stuffed that up. We copy you on the ground. You got a lot of guys about to turn blue here. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot. And then everyone
That's
starts
cool.
clapping, going, yeah, we're on the moon.
Imagine being in that room. Like, not only imagine being like the three guys in space, how you'd feel like you hadn't breathed for a very long time. But imagine being in the room on Earth.
Oh,
That'd be amazing.
I would have felt so
Would
sick.
they be popping champagne at that stage, or do they wait?
I don't know. Well, speaking of champagne,
Ooh.
Buzz radioed to Earth. He said, this is the LM pilot, Lunar Module pilot. I'd like to take this opportunity to ask every person listening in, whoever and wherever they may be, to pause for a moment and contemplate the events of the past few hours and give thanks in his or her own way. It's very nice.
Oh.
See, Aldrin is a very religious man. He's a Presbyterian, and he wanted to mention God, but at the time NASA was still fighting a big lawsuit brought by outspoken and world-famous atheist Madeleine Murray O'Hare. Mm-hmm. And she'd sued and objected to Apollo 8, the crew reading from the Book of Genesis in an earlier mission. So NASA was like, hey, Buzz, maybe don't mention the G word. No
So,
God.
I quite like how he said it, though.
So he said that.
In his or her own way.
So I think that's very good. It's accessible to everyone.
That's lovely.
Then Aldrin took a secret communion on board the module, which he'd smuggled on, also known as communion.
No, get out.
Yes.
No.
Yes, I wrote that down. Pretty
No.
good. Pretty good. So what he did, sitting in the lunar module, Aldrin, he opened
Communion.
up a little plastic package with wine and bread inside it. He poured the wine into a chalice from his Presbyterian church, and later wrote that in the 1/6 gravity of the moon, the wine slowly curled and gracefully came up the side of the cup.
That'd be rad.
That
And
is so cool.
he read himself the scripture, I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me
We
will
are
bring
the
forth much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. And then he drank the wine. So the first thing ever drunk on the moon was wine.
Yeah.
And I reckon Neil is sitting next door to him going, can I have a bit of that?
Yeah. I should have brought a beer.
Should have cracked a beer. I'm not really as religious as you, but
Yeah. Have a few brewskis. On the moon skis.
on the moonskis. Oh, so moon communion is not fine. but
Communion was much
Moonskis.
worse
So-
than brewskis on the moon skis.
The schedule for the mission then called for the astronauts to follow the landing with a 5-hour sleep period. And it's like, bullshit.
Have a nap.
We just landed on the moon. There's no way that we're going to go to bed now. Like, they've got to be... You know when you get to a holiday destination, and even though you're jet-lagged as shit, you still want to take a bit of a trip around the hotel, see what's out there.
Get straight in
'Cause
the
you're
pool.
like, I'm in Beijing. I want to see what Beijing's like.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to have a nap. I can't
No,
sleep now.
But it's like that, but you've travelled, like, 500,000 miles.
Yeah.
Which is
crazy.
way
some-
further than Beijing.
Yeah.
It's
Somewhere,
at least twice as far as Beijing.
Yeah.
somewhere that nobody else has ever been. Like, heaps of people have been to Beijing.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's been to the moon. Well, they have, but they haven't landed on it.
Yeah.
Well, they have landed.
As far as we
walked
know. I
on it.
mean,
Aliens.
there's been such a long history. Do we know that the dinosaurs never did?
Good point.
I don't know. Do we know?
Oh,
Just
imagine.
a question.
His face is so high and mighty.
Right, like-
do we? Hmm?
Did you research that, Dave?
Prove it. Prove they haven't.
So Armstrong and Aldrin, they were like, hey, can we sort of bump up the schedule here? We want to get out there. So once they were ready to go outside, So a couple of hours went past, but NASA was like, all right, we're excited too. You're excited. Everyone's a little excited. Let's get you out there.
Let's do it.
Really? Even though the TV networks would have been like, can we hold it off to prime time?
That's what I was super worried. I also thought about that. It's like, hang on, don't they have billion-dollar television deals going out?
I think so. I do vaguely remember something like that in The Dish, where they're like, they're going to do it, and everybody's watching in their PJs.
Right. Early or late at night? It probably depends on where you are.
Well, I've got the times. But we'll get to that. There's a big bit about The Dish and the thing coming up. Get excited, Jess.
I'm so
I
excited.
know you like The Dish.
Is it a good movie? Should I say it?
Yeah, it's a good movie.
I
It's
should
got
say
Sam
it.
Neill.
I like Working Dog.
Working Dog. Yeah, it's got Sam Neill. It's got a lot of good lines in
It's
it.
got Putty from Seinfeld.
Is Putty in it?
Yeah, I think Putty's in it.
Does he
Play an American
like
massacre.
speak real
Yeah.
slow?
Oh, I didn't know he was in Seinfeld. I forgot that guy's name, but I really like him. He's great in it too. He's very funny.
Great guy.
Good old Putty, the mechanic. So they're ready to go outside. Eagle was depressurized. The hatch was opened, and Armstrong made his way down the ladder first. Now, there's been a lot of rumors since that Buzz was supposed to go first, and then Armstrong pulled rank and was like, I'm the captain. I'm going out. But in reality, it's a really tiny module, and he was closest to the door. So Buzz
That is
couldn't get out.
Amazing.
Well
That
played,
is
Buzz.
that's the reason that Armstrong went first.
Sure.
Amazing.
At the bottom of the ladder, Armstrong turned and set his left boot on the surface, then spoke that immortal phrase, some of the most famous words in human history. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Do you think he thought about that a lot?
Well, there's also been rumors about that. Some people claim that he went down the ladder because he'd been thinking about it a lot, and people had given him all these phrases, like say something from Shakespeare, say something from the Bible, and some people claim that he improvised it on the way down.
I always assumed it was written for him, but that's cool.
Then his brother said that he found it in a diary.
Okay.
That was his words, so it's one of those things. But what Armstrong has always claimed, or did always claim, was that he'd said that's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind, but that it had cut out on the transmission on the A. So it
probably makes
changes
more
it a
sense,
bit,
right?
doesn't it?
Yeah, one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. So
Ah.
that's what he was trying to say in his words. But he's listened to it back and said, yeah, I can't hear it either, but I swear I said it.
Yeah.
I
Because
said it.
does it make sense as man and mankind in that sense is the same thing, right? If it's not
Yeah.
a man.
It's still. Let's
I
not
always
overanalyze.
I always
It's a nice
read it
say.
as a man anyway. One
Yeah, like
small
I'm just
step for man.
one man making a little step, but what a
One
big step we've all taken as a
Giant
civilization.
leap for
Good job, everybody.
mankind.
And then there's a rumor that he said something after that. Are you gonna talk about that at all?
yeah, he
No,
said,
please.
"Let's all get fucking wasted.
No,
Bring out the communion."
Boom!
Brewski's on the moon skis.
Let's get this party started. No one can stop me. I can do whatever I want.
Do what I want. You know my mum, Buzz. Stuff like that.
Something like that.
What you tell me what you've heard?
There was something. I don't remember the exact words or the name. It was something like he said. I don't remember it at all. No, he made a reference to Mr. Let's say
Vane?
it was Mr. Wilson.
Oh, yes, I have come across this. That's made up.
It's yeah. That's disappointing.
So,
And it's obviously
There's a
made up.
reference
Is
to.
that where the song it was about Mr. Vane?
Mr. Vane, the song we
Call
were singing
me
earlier
Mr.
today.
Vane.
It is not Mr.
What's the myth? What's the myth line?
That he says,
He actually said, supposedly said, "Good luck, Mr. Gorski."
Gorski.
The story behind that is that when he was a child, he was playing baseball through an open window. He heard Mrs. Gorski yell at her husband, "Oral sex? You want oral sex when the kid next door walks on the moon?"
Oh, yeah.
But it's just a myth.
Yeah.
So there you go. But it's a cool myth. That's
when
what
the
he's about.
kid next door walks on the moon.
So
he
it's
was
like
like-
pigs fly,
Yeah, yeah. It's
And
not-
that-
it's not quite as snappy as pigs fly.
Exactly.
When the kid next door, that guy there, Neil Armstrong.
Yeah, that kid playing baseball, he's rubbish at that, but he will be a great pilot someday.
Yeah. Yeah,
feel it.
it's too specific,
It
isn't it?
is, yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, right.
But 2 cameras on the module filmed the event and amazingly broadcast in black and white Armstrong's first steps live around the world. So there's a camera actually mounted on the module. That's how they filmed it.
Wow.
Because of random skepticism.
Probably like an early GoPro, yeah?
Well, it was tiny and it had to run on 7 watts of power, which the guy that invented it said is equal to one Christmas light.
Oh, wow.
So they had to be, and it also had to withstand temperatures of plus 250 degrees, minus
a lot.
250 degrees.
That's
That's
quite
a-
a range.
yeah,
That's
a big
Fahrenheit, but
range.
that's still
Quite a range.
Fahrenheit.
Still hot
still really
and
hot.
cold.
Warm and, mild.
It's mild. We get that on a good day here in Melbourne.
Oh,
We
yeah.
get that. Because of rampant skepticism, NASA, even at the time, thought people are going to disbelieve this. So that's why they wanted it to be live.
Ah,
So they want people to watch it live. So the video was transmitted to a tracking
Amazing.
station here in Australia,
Yeah.
Dish. Then back up to a satellite, then back to Earth in Houston, and then around the world. So it has to go a long way. So from the moon to Australia, back up to a satellite to Houston, then around the world.
They have interviews with celebrities in Hollywood, and there's that satellite delay. What kind of delay were they getting
I don't know.
from the moon? Probably,
Good point.
probably longish.
It probably was.
Or are you saying that?
Longish is, again, the technical term.
Yeah.
Scientists.
Absolutely.
Bunch
you
of
keep
scientists here.
banging on about live.
I don't think so.
I don't.
I call
buy it.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, an estimated 530 million people watch that delayed bullshit.
That is incredible.
530, which at the time is 14% of the entire population on Earth.
Yeah,
Wow.
amazing.
Despite the fact that the first moonwalk took place in the middle of the night in Europe, so in the UK it was 2:56 in the morning, France, Germany, Italy, it was 3:56. It was not broadcast at all in the Eastern Bloc because the USSR were like, whoa, let's not show that. Except
Oh.
Romania and Poland got to go. They could see.
Cool.
This is a fact there. 20 minutes later, Mr. Buzz Aldrin joined Armstrong on the surface.
Why did it take so long? Neil's just
I
sort of
reckon he was
wandering
like-
Finishing
around.
the bottle of wine.
Yeah.
No, I reckon Buzz was sitting there going, if there's aliens that are going to eat him,
Yeah.
they'll probably strike within the first 20 minutes.
Good call. Nah, good call.
Smart, that is smart.
God, Buzz is good.
Buzz is real good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I find that those sort of things would have been crazy at the time for a deeply religious guy who traditionally religion was like, God created everything, that sort of stuff. How do you explain that to yourself, the moon and this huge
Space.
space?
Maybe it's-
which I like to call.
Space.
Well, yeah, space. Sure, that'll do. Yeah, it just seems like
okay.
at the time.
Technical, great.
At the time, that would have been like would have made me ask a lot of questions as a religious guy.
I think
reckon.
it must be such an overwhelming thing to see the Earth looking back.
Mm.
It's got to make you think there's something out there, though, right?
Yeah, all of a sudden you're probably thinking less about it being the center of the universe.
Yeah, it
Which
makes
is
your
another
own
word for space.
makes your own issues
That's not-
seem a little silly, hey?
It does. Yeah,
Can't drive a manual, feel like a bit of a goose. Oh well, there's a lot more out there.
yeah.
Don't know why that's my example. Can't drive a manual.
Can't drive a manual.
Neither can I. Should I be questioning my life choices? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Yeah.
no. Well,
Because of the
question
moon.
question them briefly, but then realize that they're insignificant
Yeah.
because of the moon. Because moon.
It's one of those things you take it. I reckon you take it two ways. You either go, "Wow, I am so insignificant. I'll do nothing with my life. Who cares?"
Yeah.
Or, "Wow, I've been to the moon. Let's just do some stuff with." You know what I mean?
I can do
Anything's
anything.
possible.
Yeah.
Anything's yeah.
But we haven't been to the moon and never will. I can safely say I'll never be to the moon.
I don't
Yeah, you're not passing the test.
I'll never go.
I'll
Yeah.
never be to the moon.
Yeah, that's part of the first NASA test for intelligence. What's wrong with this sentence? I will never be to the moon, and you're going. Trick question. It's fine. Absolutely fine.
I have a journalism degree.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you've just cheapened that somewhat, I think.
I'll never be to the moon.
What university was it?
Deacon, so it doesn't really count.
Oh.
Sorry, Deacon. Sorry, Deacon.
No, that's alright.
So Neil Armstrong and Buzz, they headed out to explore the moon. This is great. They had to remember not to fully close the door on the landing module behind them.
Oh my god.
The door was closed to prevent heat escaping from the cabin, but not completely in case the cabin somehow repressurized, which would make it difficult for them to get back inside.
Oh, imagine.
And Aldrin and Armstrong even made a joke about leaving the door open. Aldrin said, "Okay, now I want to go back up and partially close the hatch," long pause, "making sure not to lock it on my way out." Armstrong laughs. "A particularly good thought."
Classic comedy.
Comedy.
Classic.
Comedy.
God,
On the
these two.
The Moon Comedy Club, they're playing to no one.
No. Except some aliens.
On his
maybe.
way down the ladder, Armstrong had uncovered a plaque mounted on the lunar module.
Oh, I thought you were going to say on the surface of the moon. Oh, that would have been a
already
bigger
there.
story.
The plaque was already... Hey, there's a plaque here. Probably the Dutch. They always beat everyone to
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Captain Cook's like,
Yeah, the Dutch
Nah,
get
I'm
there
pretty
and they're like, nah, you know what? This is inhospitable.
inhospitable. Matt?
I am also never
Yeah.
going to be to the moon.
That's true. I also referred to something as the biscuit before.
Yeah. So
Oh,
none of
yeah.
us are going to be to the
Failed.
moon.
We're not going to be the three. The next three.
We'll stick to
What's
podcast
the word I was
glory.
trying to say? Inhabitable.
Inhospitable.
Inhabitable? No,
Inhabitable.
That's
Is
not
that
a word.
it?
Is it? I don't think it is.
Oh, no.
Oh my goodness. Well, thankfully, good old Neil, he left a plaque there to signify all of humankind. The Western and Eastern hemispheres on a map. And it's an inscription from President Nixon. Signature of President Nixon at the time. So Richard Nixon's president, by the way. And it said, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot..."
Oh, God.
Fuck. Be to the moon. Be to the moon. Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969. We came in peace for all mankind.
That's so the aliens see it and go, oh,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Okay, cool.
They-
Because they left the module there, so the plaque
Right.
on the ladder is still hanging out.
Cool.
They also...
Right, so that foil thing's still up there.
Yeah, they left so much shit up there.
Wow.
Didn't even clean up their own litter.
Not at all. There's bags of urine and stuff up there.
Ew. I don't,
Still there.
oh, they got to pee somewhere, I guess.
Yeah. Well, here's a fact. Buzz Aldrin wasn't the first man to step foot on the moon, but first man to piss on the moon.
All right.
You heard it here first. They also planted the...
Flanted. Well, that could be a thing. Go on, finish off the sentence.
They also planted the flag of the United States
Ah.
of America. The flag used on this mission had a metal rod to hold it horizontal from the pole, so pretty standard. But the rod did not fully extend properly. The flag was tightly folded and packed during the journey, so the flag ended up with a slightly wavy appearance, as if there was a breeze. That's what they tell the conspiracy people that say,
Yeah.
why was it blowing on the moon with no wind?
If I was a conspiracy theorist, that would not be enough to make me go, oh, yeah, oh, of course.
Oh, my bad.
You rolled it up in the thing.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be enough. But I'm not in this case, I'm a conspiracy theorist. So I'm cool with that.
Are you
But
gonna-
if I was, I'd be like, fuck off.
Yeah, totally.
All right, mate.
Yeah.
Give me
All right,
some.
mate.
Is that
all
all
right.
you
Pull the
Give me
other
some,
one,
give me
mate.
some
Give me
credit.
some.
Give me some credit. Was not born yesterday, mate. Armstrong collected samples of the moon. Meanwhile, Buzz copped a lot of flack because on the live broadcast, it looked like that he was just running around like a crazy man, doing what he later claimed to be a kangaroo hop. This was actually, so he looks like a crazy guy, but it was actually organised with NASA. His job was to work out what it was like to move around on the moon.
Wow. That was his job.
But he just looks crazy.
Buzz, just run around
Because
for a
like
bit.
Neil's hanging out, like digging up samples, and Buzz is just doing laps. It looks awesome.
I'd prefer that job.
Yep.
Just bounce around for a bit.
Let's just bounce around.
In total, the astronauts walked around 1 kilometre on the surface, but they never strayed more than 60 metres from the lunar module. So they were really close the whole time.
Yeah.
Because there is no wind on the surface of the moon, the foot imprints they
Apart
left.
from-
Other than Collins. Yes.
I guess he wasn't on the surface, so fair enough.
That's
Go
right.
on. Do go on.
Do go on. The foot imprints that they left are still there.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Pretty impressive, Matt. Come on, give him some credit, Matt. You are being a skeptic about
No,
this.
I love it. It's all really, really cool.
That's
I
pretty
would,
cool.
I would like to be on the moon someday. Hey, are you gonna get to like post this thing at all?
Little bit. Little quick wrap up I will do.
Because I'm curious to know. I have no idea if anyone's been there since, if the Russians ever made it.
I've
and
got
that sort of stuff,
the
so
answers for that.
Great.
But as well as flags and the module itself, the astronauts left behind what is called the Apollo Goodwill Messages. So these are
They just left a DVD of Goodwill Hunting.
and one of the Academy Award
Yeah, yeah.
that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck won.
Yeah.
Very good.
There you go. Leave that there.
Or the MTV Award, which is an astronaut, guys.
Oh.
VMA. I don't
You
think
look as smug then as you
I
did
know.
with Communion.
Thank you. I don't think Matt Damon won a Video Music Award.
Don't think so, no.
There are statements from the leaders of 73 countries around the world at the time on a little disc. It's about the size of a US 50-cent piece.
Who was the Australian PM at the time? Did he get a Guernsey?
I've got his message.
Oh.
So it was printed on a piece of silicon. The world leaders' messages were photographed and then reduced to 1/200th of their size.
Jeez.
So each message is the size of a pinprick. So the Australian message from the then Prime Minister, John Gorton, his message said, Australians are pleased and proud to have played a part in helping to make it possible for the first man from Earth to land on the moon. And what is their part? Signing this little thing? Is that?
No, our part was parks.
Fair enough. I suppose we've done the video part. That's fine. This is a dramatic...
A pretty big part.
a dramatic fulfillment of man's urge to go always a little further, to explore and to know the formerly unknown, to strive, to seek, to find, and to not yield. May the high courage and the technical genius which made this achievement possible be so used in the future that all mankind will live in a universe in which peace, self-expression, and the chance of dangerous adventures are available to all.
I like that.
It's pretty Aussie. The chance for dangerous adventures.
Yeah, I like that. That's nice.
Signed, John Gorton, Prime Minister of Australia.
His speechwriter was very good.
Yeah, I love that because he probably had nothing to do with it.
Absolutely nothing. He just signed it.
Yeah.
So then it was time to come back to Earth after just 2.5 hours walking on the moon.
All right,
They were a bit
home
worried
time.
about how long their cooling system would work. They weren't sure if you go on the moon, would you get really hot, you're closer to the sun, all this kind of stuff. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin returned to the Eagle, but whilst moving around in their bulky spacesuits, Buzz Aldrin accidentally snapped off a switch of a circuit breaker. They could not take off again without it. They were a bit panicked, but Aldrin improvised by jamming the end of a felt tip pen into the hole where the switch had been broken. He jammed it in, the astronauts' landing module was able to lift off, and they left the moon's surface.
Felt tip pen's like a texter.
So they left because he jammed a pen into a hole.
Really? Otherwise...
They would have been stuck on the moon.
Man, I love all those tiny little things that have to go right.
Yeah.
Or they just... Someone else is there going, ugh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to use a felt tip pen. That'd be ridiculous.
Yeah.
What else we got?
I'm an
Yeah.
astronaut. So they rejoined
Wow.
Collins aboard
Here's
Columbia.
a bag of urine. Let's give it a go. This is handy.
Buzz, did you eat the entire communion wafer? What the fuck? You're supposed to have a nibble. My God. Ate the whole body of Christ here. Jesus. The lunar module's thrust on the way up, it knocked over the American flag that they just planted.
Oh.
So subsequent Apollo missions, so they do go to the moon later on, they
cool.
usually plant the American flag at least 30 meters away from the lunar module to prevent it being knocked over.
Did anybody straighten theirs up? Or did it just drift off into space?
No, it would just been sitting there. I think that they probably...
They probably picked it up, right?
Surely.
The next people, they were like, we'll just straighten that up for you. There you go.
So they left the moon
All
orbit.
better.
all good. The three men headed back for Earth, and on July 24th, the Columbia splashed down in the Pacific Ocean. They'd been gone for 8 days, 3 hours, 18 minutes, and 35 seconds. So that's how specific NASA is. They'd travelled 953,000 miles, or over 1.5 million kilometres. When they launched the rocket, they'd weighed 100,000 pounds, or 45,000 kilos, but what came back was just 10,000 pounds, or 4,000 kilos.
Wow.
So most of it never came back. That Nazi
Wow.
bloke had made it so everything was sort of disposable.
So clever.
No
The
one
men-
ever talks about the Nazi involvement in this.
No, but Australia takes a big chunk of we had a big part to do with it.
the dish, and we're also not Nazis. So that's 2 ticks for us.
Go Australia.
Only 1 tick for
go.
him.
Aussie, go.
The 3 men were picked up. They were put in quarantine suits just in case they'd brought back any pathogens. People were a bit worried that they'd bring back disease from the moon. They had to fill out a customs-like form,
No.
So funny.
but declaring that they were bringing samples of moon rock and moon dust into the country. I will say that many have speculated that these forms were in fact a joke filled out weeks later.
Yeah. That does feel like a joke.
But
Yeah.
Buzz has tweeted about it and tweeted a photo of it.
Classic
After
Buzz.
they were put into quarantine for 18 days just in case, and the crew were released, they were feted across the United States, love that word, feted across the US, and around the world as a part of the 40-day Giant Leap Tour. Brought the astronauts to 25 foreign countries, and they included visits visits with prominent leaders, including Queen Elizabeth II.
18 days they just sort of had to sit.
Just hang out. The president came. There's the famous photo of Richard Nixon talking to them through the glass, saying, "You've done a great job, but you've got to stay in the box."
That's fascinating. But do you think like the hype would settle down in that? That's a long time.
No, special features in magazines all over the place. They're on the cover of everything. Apollo 11 commemorative stamps and coins all over the planet.
All three of them were?
I think it would depend on the cover, whether
Yeah, okay,
Michael
sure.
Collins got a go.
I'm imagining, and I don't know if this is bad taste, but when they were finally let out, I'm kind of imagining it like when the Beaconsfield miners got out, and everybody's just like waiting for like the footage at the door. And they came out, they're like, yeah, and everybody's like, woo! Different circumstances.
Yes, they probably had a timer, unlike the Beaconsfield people. Probably it was like 18 days, so the camera crew knows when to come back.
Good point. Yeah.
But so they were heroes, really famous guys. Now, future trips to the moon. In answer to your question, Matt, 5 subsequent Apollo missions landed men on the moon.
Right.
Apollo 13 was supposed to have a go, but that was an emergency.
Yeah.
As seen in the
Tom
film.
Hanks never quite made it.
The last
Spoilers.
time man went to moon was the 1972 mission. So only 3 years later. And in total, 12 men have walked on the moon.
Right.
Russian people never got there.
But we haven't gone
Really?
for a really long time.
And then they
We
lost
should
interest.
check back in.
Was it because it just became very expensive and the
really
people weren't
There were
into it anymore?
there were supposed to be more missions, but it was just getting too expensive, so they just pulled the plug on Apollo in 1972. Though people have since sent satellites up there and collected data.
Well, it feels like now we're beyond sending humans places. We just send robots and shit
Yeah,
to
true.
Mars and whatever. Isn't that's the way to go now, right?
Yeah.
They can do the best robots can probably do more than what a
Though
human can, and you can just have a human controlling them from here.
Neil Armstrong did say that when he returned, that he thought that people will now go to Mars. That's the next thing.
Yeah.
So that's what he thought. So just to finish it off here, at the time of recording, Buzz Aldrin is alive, age 85, rocking it on Twitter.
Yep. Cool.
Find
dude.
him on there. And Michael Collins is alive, age 84. Neil Armstrong died in 2012 at age 82.
2012.
Yeah,
So-
it feels like I should remember that.
I was about to say, why don't I remember
You
that?
don't remember that? Well, still
It would have been
considered-
big news at the time.
Must have
Yeah,
been.
But I just don't recall it.
Still considered an American hero, and throughout the United States, there are more than a dozen elementary, middle, and high schools named in his honour.
That's nice.
So there you go.
How many of Collins got named after him? Bloody none.
Just Collins Street here in Melbourne.
Yeah.
It's named after him.
Wow.
So that's the story of the moon landing.
Great topic.
Thank you kindly. Because it's once again one of those things that I thought I knew a lot about, but then when I realised I knew nothing about it, I thought I had to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know most of that.
I knew
And
heaps
again-
because of
and-
the dish.
Hey, if anyone's interested, go rent the disc from your local Blockbuster.
I'm going to watch
Video
that. That's the
Easy.
next movie I'm going to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
It's the
text
dish.
me your thoughts.
Will do.
Good.
I'll tweet them to you.
Yeah,
You and Buzz.
Yeah,
I'll CC
great.
Buzz in.
Yeah, so good.
So that's the moon landing. We'll be back next week with Matt's report on the moon landing, a conspiracy.
With Matt's review of the dish.
That'll be your report.
No, you've got me interested in some other things, but maybe not the moon. But a couple of things you talked about today, I'm thinking about. I've been thinking.
Nazis?
I've got some ideas.
Oh.
Piss bags.
Bags of urine, the
how would-
history.
How a piss bag works.
Yeah.
Brief history of piss bags. I love it. I love it. Well, I'll be interested. I'll be here. Jess, you'll be here.
Oh, I'm always here.
And Matt, I dare say you'll be here.
And
Aunt-
he'll be going on.
Auntie Donna might be in the background making noise. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? But thanks for listening in, and we'll check in with you next time.
Bye.
Laters. I know what I want, and I want it now. I want you, 'cause I'm Mr. Vain.
Vain.
You're gonna-
Fuck off. That's Live Aid. That is fucking Live Aid. Live Aid. Live Aid. Live Aid. Live Aid. Live Aid. Live Aid.